But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? Why climb the highest mountain? Why 35 years ago? Why the Atlantic? Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Welcome back to the 10th episode of Game Change. Today we're finally getting to what is definitely the most requested video on my channel, and in this video I'm going to show you almost every single quality Lord of the Rings mod available for Special Edition on PC, Xbox and even PlayStation. Although note that not all the mods in this video are available for Xbox and PS4, but I'll leave links for any that are in the description of this video to make it easier to locate on your preferred platform. Oh, and I'll also occasionally leave a navigation menu on screen here, which will indicate the timestamps to skip to if you want to look for specific mods in a specific category. But let's not delay any further, it's time to transform Skyrim into Lord of the Rings. First off, although there isn't a specific look that I wanted to make for this video, there are a few visual mods that I am specifically using in order to enhance certain other mods that you'll see later in this video. And also, if you want to achieve a similar look to what you're seeing here, then begin by installing the Icevogel version 2 EMB, which some of you might be familiar with from my Transforming Skyrim into The Witcher video. This EMB is by far the best Special Edition EMB I've used to date, and that's why I've used it for every single video since The Witcher. Now, as far as grass goes, I'm using Grassfield SE by Woden's Throne, and a high-resolution texture pack named Realistic Grassfields by Art by Mari. In the past, as you may know, I've flip-flopped between Vadosbrom and Verdant, but I found that for this video and mod setup in particular, it was crucial that I found a grass mod that was both very dense, but also added grass that wasn't very tall. And you'll see why later on in this episode. I'm also using a variety of lighting, weather, texture and mesh mods to complete the look, but none of them are necessarily specific to the theme of today's video, so feel free to mix and match as you choose. Now, before we get into any of the larger mods in this episode, I'm going to show you all of the armour and weapon mods that have been specifically designed to fit a Lord of the Rings playthrough, and also some that aren't, but I felt fit the theme nevertheless. Now First off, we have the Noldor Content Pack by Matty743, which adds 4 sets of new armour and 3 sets of new weapons, all in 2 different tiers of crafting. These include the Noldor armour and weapons crafted with the Elven smithing perk along with its guard variant, and the Royal tier which requires the glass smithing perk. Next is the Eldar set, which again is crafted in the Elven tier, along with its glass variant in the Royal Eldar armour. And finally is the Rivendell set and its Royal variant, which also comes with an alternative Elrond set. All of these weapons and armours included in this mod are all styled to mimic the elven armours portrayed in the War of the Last Alliance, which is the opening battle that takes place in the Fellowship of the Ring, and is one of the most well-crafted packs for elvish styled armours to date. Next up is a quick mention which isn't Lord of the Rings specific and is also one of the most popular mods on the Nexus, Cloaks of Skyrim. Now, I know I literally just featured this mod in the Game of Thrones episode, but it fits here even more so than it does there. If you somehow have never heard of this mod before, then it simply adds almost 100 different unique cloaks to Skyrim, of which some remind me heavily of those worn in almost every Middle-earth movie and video game to date. Now back to Lord of the Rings specific armours with the mods Gondorian Ranger Armour by Haldir307 and Merp's Gondorian Armament. Both of these Gondorian themed mods adds various sets of Ranger, Guard and Soldier armours styled after those seen in the movies. The Gondorian Ranger set also comes with an Ithrillian cloak which can be added to give you the full Ranger look, and Merp's Gondorian Armoury adds, well, just about every variant of Gondorian armour seen in the movies, along with both weapons and shields bearing the White Tree sigil. Next is the Celebrimbor Armoury set, created by Chukaku, which is styled after Celebrimbor's armour and weapons from the Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War games, from the classic silver elven breastplate all the way through to both the hammer and bow used in-game. This mod adds some really exquisite and high-quality items to the game, even all the way down to the arrows, which is a nice detail. This mod also includes a custom follower located in Riverwood which adorns the set, and if for some reason you wanted to roleplay as a weird undead elven zombie, then this mod's got you covered too. And speaking of weird undead elven zombies, we have the Sauron armour by Lubosco222. This set is fittingly placed into the Daedric tier and can only be crafted at the Skyforge in Whiterun. Next, diverging from Lord of the Rings specific mods, is the Guard Armour Replacer, which I have been using for a while now, and it aims to, well, replace all the Guard's armour sets around Skyrim. It exchanges them for uniquely styled armours that fit the theme of each city, and in particular it's the Whiterun armour that makes it fit into this video, because tell me that doesn't scream Rohan. Oh, and I've also thrown in wizard hats by Sir Who into this video, and pushing the last couple of armour sets is actually 3 sets of armour mods, 2 of which are designed to mimic the Nazgul aesthetics, and the last is not, but it kind of looks like it anyway. First is the Lord of the Rings Nazgul and Ring of Power mod, which actually adds a lot more than just some robes. It delivers the player a note upon installing the mod, which leads them on a hunt for a Ring of Power, which if obtained and worn, can transform the player into a Nazgul. And the second mod is Nazgul Armours by Ivar the Boneless, which adds all the Nazgul armour sets, again styled after those seen in Shadow of War, which are all very well modelled. And finally, the armour mod that isn't meant to be specifically for a Nazgul, but does heavily remind me of one, is the DCR King Crusader Mega Pack. And the 2 final mods as far as armour is concerned is the Uruk-hai Armour and Weapons mod, and finally is the Lord of the Rings Shield Pack, which adds both Gondor and Rohirrim shields into the game crafting menu for extra immersion. Now I know there's a few weapon specific mods we need to get through as well, but we're going to take a slight breather from equipment for a minute and come back to that after a few creature mods. First up, we have the Project White Hand, the Rise of the Uruk-hai mod by BMW 0103, which replaces all of the bandit factions in the game with vicious, cold-hearted Uruk-hais, which all bear the armours included in the armour mod mentioned earlier. This mod really helps to overhaul your exploration experience, as bandits are pretty much everywhere around Skyrim, so you really do feel like you're in a land savaged by Mordor's unnatural breed of elvish orcs. The next few mods are created by an author which those of you who have been around my channel for a while will recognise, Mihail Mods, whose files I've used in multiple Game Change videos to date. Some of these are admittedly not Lord of the Rings specific, but do add to the theme and the tone of the playthrough. The first, however, is Lord of the Rings specific in the addition of goblins to the game. Similar to those seen in both The Hobbit and Moria, goblins are something that Oblivion players will be familiar with and definitely fits the theme for this video. Sticking along those lines, I've also included Ogrims and Ogres, which is the best alternative for Middle-earth style trolls for Skyrim, as the Elder Scrolls trolls tend to take more after the fairy tale troll under the bridge inspiration rather than the hulking ogre-like creatures seen in the Middle-earth books and films. Finally are 2 mods that are not Lord of the Rings specific, but I just think are a nice addition to the wildlife for this video, and that's both Mihail's squirrels and cave bears, because, well, there's surely squirrels and cave bears in Middle-earth, right? I mean, look at Beorn for example, half man, half bear, so they clearly exist in that universe. And speaking of The Hobbit, I'm also using the Smaug Duin mod by Thoth6222, which reskins Alduin into the red tinted theme similar to Smaug from The Hobbit. Okay, so that was a nice little nature break, but let's get back to the steel with our selection of weapon mods. We'll start with the most popular mod in this entire list, and actually the first mod I ever downloaded back on the Steam Workshop in my early days of modding. The Isilmaril Lord of the Rings weapon collection adds so many of the famed weapons from all of the Lord of the Rings movies to the game, and has been around that long that it even came out before the Hobbit movies, and thus naturally does not include any of those weapons. Although it does include Frodo and Bilbo's Sting, Legolas's bow and daggers, the Witch King's sword, Sauron's mace, Narsil and its reforged Anduril, Gandalf's Glamdring, and finally the Morgul blade. Each of these weapons can be crafted at a unique moonforge up the path to High Hrothgar, and are all fantastically created, with some even coming in both one- and two-handed variants. It also requires you to travel down to Blackreach in order to obtain the ingredients required to craft Sauron's enchanted mace. There's also a retexture for this mod created by Melania, which makes all the weapons more rustic and fit into the Skyrim game more seamlessly. Next, while sticking to the swords, I'm using the Orcris Goblin Cleaver mod by Ishbin Kine Rabota, the Strider Sword by D. Magnus, the Herogrim or Theoden Sword mod by Naru1305, and finally Eowyn's Sword and Shield by Naghalpa J85. which pretty much adds in all the remaining blades that Silmaril missed in their original mod. Finally, as far as weapons are concerned, I'm also using the Gandalf Light Staff and the Gandalf White Light Staff, for all you magic users out there that want something a little more wizardly to wield. Okay, so we've got armour covered, we've got weapons covered, we have a few creatures added to the world, but what about the world itself? Well, there's a few mods that begin to add some new Lord of the Rings locations into Skyrim. I'll start with two mods that actually aim to achieve the same thing, but I'll leave it up to you to decide which one you prefer. Both Lord of the Rings Weathertop and Lord of the Rings Amon, created by Argon098, are two mods which adds the Weathertop structure seen in the Fellowship of the Ring in two different stages of its life. Now known as Weathertop, this broken structure was once a tall tower, which served as one of the last lines of defence against the Witch King of Angmar and his armies in 1409. Middle-earth years, of course. After a fierce siege, the Dunedain were defeated and the tower was destroyed, making it the Weathertop we see in The Lord of the Rings. Amon is a mod which returns the tower to its former glory in the plains between Morthal and Whiterun. However, Weathertop implements the same tower in the same location, but now in its destroyed form. Both mods, in my opinion, look fantastic, but it's up to you which one you choose to include in your game. But now to one of the larger mods for this video. If you watched my Lord of the Rings overhaul trailer, then you'll be familiar with some of the scenery, which is all shot in our next mod. Introducing the Elder Scrolls V Middle-earth Redone.
Home is behind the world ahead, and there are many paths to tread, through shadow to the edge of night, until the stars are all alight. Mist and shadow, cloud and shade,
This mod, created by FONV4, is nothing short of massive and adds, quite frankly, an uncountable amount of Lord of the Rings locations to Skyrim. The mod page lists them as Moria, Mirkwood, Lothlorien, Rohan, the Shire, Bree, Weathertop, the Misty Mountains, the Path of the Dead, and the Anduin Valley. But exploring this mod for myself, I found that each one of these locations were more like regions, and within those regions are hundreds of new buildings, points of interest, and even whole new dungeons, all plucked directly out of both the movies and the books. The scenery in this mod alone is just stunning, and each location does feel very fleshed out for how large they are. Entering the mines of Moria through the secret entrance by the lake and following its grand halls all the way through to the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, where you fight the Balrog itself. Or traversing through the Path of the Dead, meeting various recognisable encounters like the spirits of Ancano, Astrid, Harkon and more, before facing the army of the dead at the end. How about joining the battle at Helm's Deep, of which you can set various stages of the siege to fight back Saruman's Uruk army? If you wanted a more peaceful approach, then explore the fully built out Shire, which comes with both a buildable player home and even Bag End, which is pretty much as faithfully recreated to the movies as possible. Or take a hike up to Bree and visit the Prancing Pony. Or maybe traverse the Goblin Kingdom on the path to the Misty Mountains, seeing Lothlorien, Rivendell, and so many more places, all of which I can't even begin to show you in just this video, and some of which I probably haven't even discovered for myself. And throwing it back to the beginning of this video, it's the reason why I recommended grass fields instead of verdant. Having dense, thick grass really helps to beautify each one of these areas, and I found that with verdant at least, there was a lot of issues with grass clipping through the floors and items, so a shorter grass mod like grass fields was perfect, and in fact made the whole mod look even better than what it did before. All you really need is the Take Notes mod to write your own journal, a couple of followers, and I bet you can create quite an exciting story travelling throughout the various regions of Middle-earth that this mod offers. fighting its multiple large-scale battles and delving through its darkest dungeons. If you're planning on doing a Middle-earth playthrough, then this mod is one of the biggest and most immersive Middle-earth world spaces to date. Oh, and I'm also using both the Middle-earth Redone patch and the hair replacer alongside this mod. Now, on a similar note, there's also a mod named Middle-earth Path of the Hobbit, which adds a much more scaled down, but still similar in many ways, kind of extended world space, which takes you on a journey all the way from the Shire to the Lonely Mountain. Although not on the same scale as Middle-earth Redone, it does provide a fun journey for you to partake upon if you're looking for something a bit smaller and more condensed. Now, before we get on to the largest and final mod for this video, there are a number of smaller Lord of the Rings starred mods that can be included into your game. There's not really enough of these to fit into a specific category, and they're not really honourable mentions, so we're just going to call this segment the miscellaneous mods. First is a couple of followers in the form of Galadriel by Moon Psychosis, Lurtz the Urukai by Destiro, and Luthwen the Elven Follower by Swiftberg. I also did try to obtain a super old mod named Woman of Middle-earth, which was one of my favourite mods back in the day, and added Arwen, Galadriel and Eowyn into the game. I think I even have screenshots from like my first PC playthrough ever where I'm using it, and I did manage to get a Russian version of the mod from Lover's Lab of all places, but yeah. So, sorry team, at least I tried. Next is Pipe Smoking SE, which grants you the ability to smoke some good old long bottom leaf. No Gandalf smoke ships though, so 0 out of 10 wouldn't recommend. Island Hobbit Home is a player home modelled after Bag End, which can be found just south of Riften along Lake Honrich. Finally, 3 separate mods, which you can use one or all 3, which add their own versions of the One Ring into Skyrim. First is the Ring is Mine mod, which is somewhat similar to the Nazgul mod featured earlier, allowing you to obtain 2 new rings of power, the Dark Ring and the Pure Ring, each having different effects dependent on your race and will transform the player into an undead Nazgul. Second is simply the One Ring mod, which adds a very powerful ring, granting you various abilities such as invisibility and 500% sneak increase, but does drain health, stamina and magicka over time as a cost. And finally is actually a larger pack called the Ultimate Assortment, which along with adding Isildur's Bane to the game, also comes with various other weapons, armours and jewellery such as Arwen's Evenstar necklace. Now ladies and gents, we're finally here. You made it, congrats. Let's move on to the final mod for this video, and the biggest and most complete Middle-earth themed mod to date, the Shire. The Shire is a huge quest and new lands mod, with various branching storylines and multiple endings. It's an epic player choice oriented questline containing both good and evil branches, along with some of the simply stunning new landscapes and areas to explore. The Shire offers up to 30 hours of gameplay, with some of the best high quality voice acting I've seen in a while, as well as offering a dense new world space that's bigger than Solstheim, yes, you heard that right. It also includes a fully customizable Hearthfire style player home, allowing you to create and dig out your own hobbit hole located alongside other like-minded folk. To start, you need to simply follow the road past the Dawnguard cave up to the border gate, and the rest I'll leave up to you to discover. This mod is truly massive, and offers more than enough content to supply an entire playthrough alongside all the other mods included in this video.